Faith for me when I was, as young as 5 was very real in my head. I knew the facts, I knew the Bible verses. I, could memorize Bible verses for Awana and get my gold star, my badge with the little jewels and all that kind of stuff. As real as it was in my head, it wasn't real in my heart at all. My faith very early on and very young was a show. And I mean, when that's your foundation, when that's your beginning point, things go south very fast. Shortly after I turned 12, that whole world came crashing down. Suddenly, over the span of about a month, all of my mess, all of the inner me was revealed. Because of all of that, I dealt with being fed lies about myself, about who I was. You're disgusting, you're a bad person, you're a criminal, you're this and that. And I was all kinds of depressed and suicidal and violent, and I was abusing substances. As a freshman in high school, I got kicked out of my youth group. First kid in like 18 years of youth ministry that my youth pastor had ever had to kick out of a youth group before. I lost the last place on earth outside of my home where I genuinely felt safe and loved and cared for. So I had this big conversation with my youth pastor that night, and I ended up being kicked out of my youth group for a grand total of like 18 minutes. At the end of that month, I went to Lake Yan Camp up near Traverse City for my first year of their senior high program. So this was summer going into my sophomore year of high school, still very young. And I went up there for camp, and I walked into that week of camp, and I said, all right, God, here's the deal. I'm going to try this week. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to give you everything that I have. I'm going to sing every song. I'm going to listen to every message. I'm going to participate in all the games. I'm going to do all the stuff to try to hear from you and to try to actually experience what you might have for me here. And I need you to show up. I need you to show me that you actually want me, and that there's more to life than this. Sure enough, Wednesday night came along with the second song we were singing. My hands were in the air, I got goosebumps all over, every hair on my body stood up on end, and I realized for the first time in my life, truly, that God was with me in that room and that He wanted me. And I turned to a kid next to me named Nate, who I met that week at camp, and I was like, yo, do you need to go up front? And he was like, yeah, and I was like, oh no, now I have to. And sure enough, me and Nate, we walked side by side to the steps of the stage, and we kneeled down on the ground there and in front of the 250 other high school students who are just chilling at their chair worshiping, doing their thing. And Nate kneels down, and he just breaks down sobbing and just starts confessing a life of brutal alcoholism at the age of 17. And I was just like, whoa. So I knelt down over him to kind of pray for him, still really unsure of what to do. And as I knelt down, I put my hands on him. I looked up at the 250 other high school students who were in that room, and they had all stopped singing, and they had bowed their heads, and they were praying for us. And that was really the moment for me where I the weight and the glory of who God is and what He desires from His people in terms of community and grace and love just came crashing down on my shoulders and replaced the weight of the sin and the shame and the pride that had held on for so long. That time of my life was so turbulent and so full of anxiety and worry and hurt that really stepping into my relationship with God meant stepping into a place where I learned how to actually be at peace. As I've looked more deeply into it over the past even month, I'm recognizing how my story in so many ways is the story of a prodigal son who has everything. I've got, this amazing home, amazing family, a loving church around me. Really, there's no reason for me to run away and to get into all this mess and to feel all this pain and brokenness. set up perfectly, you know? And I still ran away. And I was still so angry and so bitter and so turbulent. And a large part of my coming home was the fact that not only did I have a good heavenly Father waiting for me to come home, but I had good earthly parents and earthly friends. And truly, my coming home story is a story of having a home to come home to.